This is the third day after I got the text from Julie. um, in the previous recording, I mentioned that I was handling fine. Last night and this morning, there's some feeling of missing her. Maybe a little more than some, but not much. So I studied myself, also related to looking at myself, how I can assess the situation over time, which I have done already on the day of the notice that I got from Julie in the other recording. So this is kind of still keep checking how I feel. Like I said, I I felt this morning a little missing and some sense of missing of her. I then realized this is something about the looking at myself objectively. That's the way I kind of justify how I behave, because within myself I have different viewpoint of how I appreciate or assess the situation. And one view may be seen as the view from the heart, or there may be a view from the brain, which is more like top management look at the mini company, or the department manager or whoever, so that he can give some assessment of what's going on. Like I mentioned, if you have a multiple viewpoint, you can assess the situation better. Therefore, I've been studying myself, how I'm doing it. This may sound weird or doesn't make any sense to somebody, but I find it very meaningful, useful, and interesting even, and also to the point of chuckling yourself. My Australian friend mentioned about the Australian can laugh at themselves. And I didn't know such expression as much, but I thought that was wonderful. And this discussion I'm going through right now is similar to that. If you can laugh at yourself, what you're doing, what does that mean? With the term that I use here, it's almost like objective view of yourself from third person's point. So I mentioned about the chess game, and if you are not involved in a chess game, you can see yourself. If you're outside of the chess game, but you know the chess game and see how things are happening, the outside person's view tend to have more calm and quiet mind to assess the situation as opposed to the person who are playing the game, because you have to kind of fight. I guess it's the same for the swordmanship, samurai fighting each other. So the mastery is, in a way, or in many ways perhaps, to put yourself beside yourself, to see who you are, what you're doing, and connect to that. Specifically related to Julie's case, this morning I went through the little exercise again. What a viewpoint do I have to assess the situation? And let's see if I can retrieve what I felt. Yes, I look at myself as if that is the third person. If you can do it, you're off the hook in a way from the, how do you call it, grip of the emotional entanglement, meaning that you can put yourself aside and look at the whole balance of the situation. So what I found is that in doing so, I saw myself like a poor fellow who lost the love of his life or something like that. And that's natural. That happens all the time. There's the movies and the stories and people killing themselves and the Goethe's, story. I remember young Wolfell's sorrow, and people are affected to that and they can resonate to that. But wait a minute. I did it in this way, that I felt so sorry for me. Okay, there's another I and the me. Those are the paradox that I mentioned somewhere else. There's a big I, like a CEO of the company, president of the company, looking at the mini company president, you know, who has the CEO has much broader view and understanding and relating to the specific issues that his subordinate, business. So he can guide because that's his role and lead and give perhaps emotional support or even bring in some humanistic, interesting viewpoint, sympathy, yeah, or empathy, whatever that relationship and the feeling that he may have. So that's what I found me doing. I was doing me feeling sorry and a little depressed. And, as I talk, I can laugh at it. But when you're depressed, you cannot put yourself outside of you. So this is critically important to learn this lesson. That's my conviction, and that's one of the reasons that I keep revisiting incessantly. I think that's the English word, to really know thyself and know how this calm and quiet mind works. We can address the situation, go over the sorrow or suffering, and be happy or be on your own destiny. Be the master of your destiny, and that helps me. And if I feel like it, why not I share through this YouTube? Because there may be other persons who may be feeling the same thing. So I'm talking to that person who may be like me in that instance. Because I saw myself this morning that thinking like, oh, he's such a poor fellow. I feel sorry for him. I had the compassionate sense about him. This person, me, myself. And when I have the compassionate sense, the feeling I had, I almost cry, just feeling the sorrow that he may be going through, which is myself. But, but within myself, there are those two entities. And in this case, the sorrow and the empathy was coming from my heart. I could identify with him. So the sorrow he had, that mini-me, looking for the warmth of the friendship or whatever could happen in that relationship. But the other me, which has the heart-oriented view, it's a view from the heart, basically. I think that's what happened on the day when I received the text, and I wasn't so disturbed because I had the foundation at the time. And you can lose it easily. But I had a strong foundation, like including the thought, expect unexpected. So early in the relationship, you don't know what's going on as much. Like many things, it happens. Actually, it happens not the relationship, but when you learn how to do the surfing or do the painting or singing, I'm sure, or start to invest money or at work. If you do something new, there's always some level of confusion. So when a situation like that happens, some maybe give you the objective view and how to assess the situation, relate to the situation to go over. There's another view, which is a compassionate sense of the heart, sympathetic about the situation because perhaps that person feeling this empathy or compassion toward this person else is that he has gone through that. Maybe it's like a parent's feeling toward their son or daughter, whatever the case may be, because they have gone through that. Okay, we are all different character in different setting in a way. That's the idea of the mini-me, different aspect of us, identity. It can float around and you may be the person feeling very sorry because you don't see anything else in his world. But you can put yourself outside of his world because you, the same person, has different basis. Again, from the brain point of view, to assess the situation, to give the objective review of what's going on. Let me try that if I can, and I can just simulate the feeling. Okay, here's the Kyo feeling very sorry. this guy says, there's this objective view. Having an objective view is saying something like, well, Kyo, that's very normal. You've seen and you have gone through this so many times, and you have seen other people doing it, and they're depressed and drinking and smoking or whatever they do, and they go crazy sometimes. But you don't need to do that. You have gone through so many experiences in the past, and you have gone through it. This is one of them. And you just start to feel something toward that person, Julie, but you have no idea. You don't know yourself as clearly toward her, how you can develop the relationship, but you create the image of how wonderful it is. I realized that, Kyo, you had this never felt feeling that you mentioned, that you said something like, I couldn't believe I fall in love like this in my whole life. Never happened before, but I thought I can throw everything toward her. I know that's how you felt, all right? And you even talked about or thought about, throwing away some money of almost $1 million toward her. And that may sound weird, but you're thinking about it because you wanted to stay in New Zealand, and one way to stay is to throw away the green card that you should renew, but you don't go back there. As a result, you forfeit the right of green card, and you have to pay the exit tax, imposed upon your wealth, properties, and IRA, individual retirement account, that you have accumulated some wealth. And for that, you have to pay $600,000 or $200,000, whatever the amount may come up to $1 million. And you even thought about it. And I can identify, and I think it's marvelous, that this person may sound like so important for you. But wait a minute, let me talk about the view. You are there, just met, briefly, so to speak. I knew you fell in love, and you're crazy, so you spend 1 week waiting for her to come. And every day and night, you thought about this and that, address the issue of how to, promote this relationship and all that, but you don't know who she is yet to the degree. It's okay you fall in love and all the logic goes away, but let's be calm and quiet and don't overblow your view of the world, because you never know what happens. Typical relationship is something that you may even get married, but after a while you realize some of the fault and difficulties that may come from their point of view, your counterpart's point of view, or your own failure or suffering, whatever the tragedy may happen within you. So you have certain orientation to match up everything. In a good relationship takes effort. And it is natural that if she had some relationship with others, maybe she want to get together, give another chance. That happens. So just be reasonable. So that's the view of the objective view, let's call it. And yet, if you are in that position, sitting there as Kyo, and if you are struggling and unhappy and suffering, no matter what you say, you cannot listen. But if within yourself, there's this friend, Kyo's friend called Kyo, the big Kyo with the brain, and he's reasoning. And if you can listen to that, and there's a communication, sincere communication between those two Kyos, it's a paradox, I know, but within that same person, there's two entities. And that's the discussion I'm going through. Objective view, different viewpoint, and you go back and forth. As much as Kyo, you did while you're waiting for that 1 week period. Every day you had the thought and you went back and so forth, clarified, and you did actually come to the point of great acceptance on the seventh day, or actually in the morning of the seventh day at the 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. And you put that word in that, or actually maybe 6 o'clock or something, you put that into the YouTube, even called the Julie's case. And in there you said you are connected to the heart and you're open and you can see the waves, which is their disturbances. But from that bottom of your heart and looking yourself, you felt at peace, very calm. And that was the, what do you call that? Awakening or realization of how you felt. That was so strong. So basically, you expect the unexpected. The things can happen. You know that. You have gone through it. You even talked about that in the voice memo or YouTube. You know, expect the unexpected. Yes, that's natural. It's like Murphy's Law. You know, things happen. And then you receive the text. And with that preparation, maybe that's the way to put it, or with that realization of who you could be, with that perspective, I don't know if it's called heart, whatever the term, but you had it, and you are that one. And you also felt that same thing, same heart happens, exists in Julie and other people. So nobody's different from the perspective. And I think that's very honorable to feel like it, because you're beyond the boundary of self or ego or possessed view to relate to yourself and who this human being could be. That may be difficult, but you had the realization of that day. And therefore you could handle the situation. When you read the text and you felt you wished her the best. And you are actually surprised that you could do that. See, that's what happened. A few days later, your mind kind of, and the brain start to work. And perhaps residual of some past memory and situation popped up. The weakness of your being. That's natural, because like kids or anything, no human being is perfect. So the thought pops up, the emotion pops up, and you're kind of shaken a little bit. Not a lot. It's great that for the last 3 days you did quite well. I mean, wonderful. And just a little disturbance this morning, and you felt like missing her. And I do understand that. And who is that I who understand? In this case, it's kind of hard to say, but I think this I and toward you, the mini Kyo, is the brain Kyo. Yeah, let's call it the heart Kyo and brain Kyo. So on the day of that receiving the text in the morning, that was the heart Kyo, realizing that you can accept it. Now, I think this Kyo is the brain Kyo who was trying to go back to reason something from that you have accumulated knowledge of what you have been going through, even talking into the YouTube, the voice memo and posting, which you have to do. And now, from the objective point of view, that's one way to address it, not from the heart view. So the reasoning I mentioned simulated that reasoning. You listen to it. And that triggered something inside of you to think, oh, that's right. So you kind of regained your foundation, right? The foundation can be shaky, and you may catch this, whatever things that you can find in that situation and feel sorry about it. Or you can catch the other idea, like a brain Kyo or heart Kyo. So that's the whole point of sharing, to be able to have some different perspective to realize what's going on. Because if you think about the neuron structure, you can have those ideas, sub-segment, or I call it the mini-me. Mini-me can discuss among themselves what's going on because they have the customer supply and the coexisting situation within yourself. So you have to develop the harmony. You work hard on it. If there's a bottleneck to not be able to do it, you need to address it. More you clean up your system so that you have a varieties of view that you can synthesize to look at the situation. If you have lots of multiple disciplines to check against what's going on, so the reality, the truth may be much clearer than just having one view, one experience, one habit, and the same pattern, the hammer pattern, hammer nail pattern, the syndrome I mentioned. You approach things only with one hammer and trying to fix everything with that. It may work, but you need to be very lucky that you can succeed in living life. You need different tools and different mini-me's, different way of orchestrating. As much as in the company, we need to do the same. So when you went through, and as I'm kind of reviewing and ascertaining, I don't know if that's the word, to making sure that you really understand, you have to go through it. Okay, what's the summary? You have gone through some experience. You had the sincerity and the truthfulness to try to address it. As human, it's not the easy thing to do, but you did it because you're 72 years old, and this is kind of like a last resort, last possibility, and you grab on it. That's great, and you had the experience. That's wonderful. It turned out to be not what I expected, but you took it positively, and you try to come up with a solution, whatever you can, whether to address the green card issue or visa issue or whatever various issues that they, stop you to get the relationship. You're cleared up, but still not clear because she has her life and she has her priorities and the background and the habit and whatever the situation that's. So that's natural. So objectively, that is understandable. And yet you are prepared by saying expect unexpected. So you did well to get to that view from the heart. And then you are going through the residual part of the cleaning up. Because the cleanup has to go on, from the crack of your personality or the background or the habitual things, and they come kind of like almost attacking. So you need to be prepared with the sincerity and truthfulness and have a multiple viewpoint. So that's the summary. I may need to revisit this, but I'm just taking this opportunity to share in-process review of what's going on for myself. And if there's any person listening to me, that's my summary and my encouragement to live with sincerity and truthfulness, and don't give up to do that. Because I think my conviction is that that's why we are here born and go through it, to find our own destiny. And maybe with others. No guarantee. But you do your best. Keep on reinventing yourself. Address the issues and move on. Thank you and good luck.